This is VolcaKnowledge, the podcast where we explore how volcanoes interact across nature, culture, and society. I'm your host, volcanologist Sam Mitchell, and every episode I'll be joined by a new guest to get their unique perspective on the world of volcanoes and geology through the eyes of art, history, media, education, industry, and so much more. If you're watching, thanks for watching. If you're listening, thanks for listening. Remember, you can catch all of our episodes on many streaming platforms. Let's go and meet our guest. Enjoy the episode. 7 is a pretty important number in nature, mainly referring to the number of continents on our planet. But nowadays it's also tied to challenges, usually related to the extreme, whether that's setting your first foot on the 7 continents, running a race on the 7 continents, maybe even climbing a peak. But one peak that we don't always consider might be the 7 volcanic summits of the world. And so I'm very excited to be joined today by someone who has done. So welcome Ricardo Kaljouw, who is a mountaineer, military veteran, and the first Dutchman to climb the Volcanic 7 Peaks Challenge. Hello.
Hello, Samuel. Good evening.
Ricardo, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of VolcaKnowledge today. This is very, very exciting. I'm very excited for this episode.
Good to hear.
Good. So let's kick things off straight away. Favorite volcanic place you've ever been to?
Well, for me, man, it's one of the most beautiful volcanoes I consider, and it's in Ecuador, and it's called Cotopaxi. I like how it is formed and how it looks.
It's a beautiful volcano. Yeah, all the pictures. I think it's a picture and a volcano that I remember from seeing books when I was younger, and that one always stuck in my mind. Just the shape of the crater, the surroundings.
Same with me, and it looks like it is overflowing with lava, but that is the glacier that is coming down.
So, quick follow-up question: have you climbed it?
Yes.
You have climbed it. Okay, we'll come back onto that later then. So, second quick question. That was question 1B. Question 2: a volcanic place you have always wanted to go to that you haven't been to yet?
There is one, and it's on a continent that I recently went to, but it is Erebus in Antarctica.
Yes.
And I know
Okay.
it's very difficult to get to as a tourist. So still, that is on my list for maybe one day.
Okay, I will keep my fingers crossed for you. So before we go any further and kind of hear more about your background, briefly tell us what, I think it's kind of self-descriptive, but what is the Volcanic 7 Summits Challenge?
Well, what you have to do for this challenge to complete it is for each continent you climb the highest volcanic peak. And it's derived from the original summit, Seven Summit Challenge, which concludes also with Everest. Only this is a pretty not known challenge, and recently in the last, let's say 10 years, it has become more popular.
Yeah. So, and you have just recently finished this, haven't you?
Yeah, I was just checking the calendar, and it has been 1 month ago
There we
since
go.
since I stood on the top over there on my last summit.
And your last summit was where?
It was very remote, very cold, and it's called on a volcano in Antarctica, and it's called Mount Sidley.
Well, if there's quite a way to finish off the challenge, it's climbing the highest volcano in Antarctica.
It's such a remote expedition. Just to give you a little bit of dramatic facts is that only 100 people ever been there. So and less people have ever summited. So it's very unique.
Wow. Okay, so was that also your first time in Antarctica?
Yes, for me it was.
So as well as climbing all 7 peaks, you also ticked off at the same time all 7 continents.
Yes, and it was a dream already to go there since I was a kid, and I always read these adventure books and everything. And finally I stepped on board of the plane, and then you go on this expedition. It's just tremendous.
Amazing. Well, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
And you said you're a special number, right, to have completed the challenge?
Yeah. So when I found out that this challenge existed, there were only 24 individuals who ever did it. And now, a couple of years later, I'm number 50 in the world who ever done it, and the first from the Netherlands and the Benelux region who have completed it.
Well, there we go. Even extra congratulations. So now we've hit the end of the story. Let's rewind the tape. Take us back as far back as you want us to, a bit of your background and how you found yourself suddenly with a desire not just to climb volcanoes, but how you found out about the Seven Peaks as well.
Well, I was was just a young adult, and I decided to go into the Dutch Armed Forces. And I was sent on a mission towards the Indian Ocean for anti-piracy missions over there with frigates. And sometimes we had time off. And I remember there was one day when we came into the port of Mombasa in Kenya. And when I was there, I always thought like, hey, there's maybe one other thing that I want to tick off, and that is going on a safari in Africa. I needed to do that. So we went with a big group. We go somewhere in Kenya, all the way to the west. And yes, I was looking at the animals and everything, but there was also somewhere at the savannah there was a volcano just rising up in the distance.
Yeah.
And not a lot of days you can see this volcano. Normally, this sometimes is a little bit shrouded by some clouds, and that was the famous Kilimanjaro. I always knew about being active and everything, but I knew that altitude was something completely different, and I wanted to test myself. Unfortunately, what happened was that in my military service, I didn't have enough time to do these kind of things. I was sent everywhere, but eventually, yes, it did happen, and I set my first steps on this volcanic soil. So that was my start of my journey. However, though, when I really started to focus on volcanoes, it came 1 year later.
Okay.
I went to a region that is now currently also very hot in the news, which is near Goma. Yes.
Yes.
Now it's not so good in the news. And when I was there in 2016, the situation was also not very good.
Yes.
However, though, I read something about a volcano that you can climb there and that you can sleep on top of the crater and you can look inside and see a volcanic lake.
Yeah. So this is going to be Nyiragongo.
Nyarangongo, yes, yes. That is truly where the passion for climbing volcanoes really started.
I can see how it'd be hard not to be transfixed by that, climbing to that peak and looking down and seeing, well, one of the world's largest active lava lakes right there in front of you.
Yeah, especially in the night. During the day, it's already unique, but in the night, when this red pillar just rises up into the stratosphere, it feels like that. It's just an amazing feeling, and it gives you the feeling that you are very small compared to the whole world. You can feel almost you can feel the rumbling of the earth, the heartbeat of the earth, and it shows you that we are in a very short timeline of this whole existence of the earth, and that is your time that you are here on the planet. And yeah, that propelled me to go more into volcano climbing. Not even knowing what this volcanic challenge it existed or
Just
not.
climbing volcanoes.
I had no idea. So, and then eventually from that, I was like, okay, I climbed some volcanoes in Africa, but I need to go to other places.
So at this
And
point, had you climbed Kilimanjaro then?
yeah, I climbed Kilimanjaro
Okay, so
primarily. That was my first one, and after that, I went to Goma and climbed in the Virunga Mountains. Um, However, though, with mountaineering, we always think of snow and ice and everything, and I didn't really had experience with that. So that was my next logical step to do. Um,
okay.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then
because I guess Kilimanjaro. So you unknowingly completed your first peak just by climbing Kilimanjaro, I guess.
yeah, exactly. I had no idea that it existed, and of course, I knew that the original, let's say the Seven Summits, I knew it was part of that. I
Yeah.
knew. So, and that was never my goal to do the Seven Summits. No, I just wanted to climb and see what I'm capable of, and yeah, that started for me in Kilimanjaro, and it went well. It went okay. It was my first, let's say, experience with high altitude, which is different for everybody. Um, but yeah, from then I understood that yeah, I like to be in these kind of regions and to suffer also a bit. I love to do that, and yeah, altitude is one of those things that can make you suffer.
Yeah, because these peaks are quite high. Like obviously the seven peaks are the tallest in each. When I
Yeah.
looked at this list, these are tall mountains, regardless of them being volcanoes in the first place. They're all over 4,000 meters. A good few of the majority of are over five, and then you've also got your highest one there in South America as well. So, are you able to tell us if you've got them on memory what these seven peaks actually are and where they are in the world?
Yeah, so let's start from well, the highest to the lowest. We can
Yep.
start with that. So the highest volcano on the earth is Ojos del Salado, and it's situated in the Atacama Desert at the border of Chile and Argentina. And yeah, that is a volcano that is almost reaching 7,000 meters. So it's very high up there, and that is a tough challenge with the altitude. Um, if we then look further in the list, then we really already mentioned Kilimanjaro is there.
Yep.
It's almost 6,000. And then we have some other volcanoes, and they are more the glaciated volcanoes that we have there. And that is in Elbrus in the Caucasus in Russia,
Hmm.
and it's like 5,600. There's a couple of those are almost just a couple of meters of difference from each other. So same
Yeah.
as Damavand in Iran, and it's also 5,600. Very nice, beautiful volcano. Um, and then we have Mexico. We have North America. We have Pico de Orizaba, a very mythological peak
Mm.
for there. And then we have to, if we go further down the list, we come towards a region that is not very much climbed, and it's in the island of New Guinea, in Papua New Guinea, and that is a volcano around 4,300 meters, something like that. And then the last one, yeah, we already talked about that. That is, of course, in a continent that not a lot of people come to, and not a lot of people even climb there. And it's almost 4,300 meters.
Yes, because you even said just before about wanting to do Erebus in Antarctica, which is not as high. It's the one that's most well known for being the Antarctic volcano. It is active. It does have a lava lake in its crater, but it's not the highest one. So this is Sidley.
Yes,
Yep.
Sidley is the highest one. You are correct. Everybody knows about Erebus, and it comes in the news, of course, with these articles and everything. But yeah, there is a volcanic range in Antarctica, and it's in the most desolated place of the continent.
Yeah.
It's the biggest unclaimed territory of the continent, and there are around 8 big volcanoes, almost the size of Erebus, and then Sidley is higher, that are situated over there. But nobody comes there.
Yeah. In terms of access to get to Erebus, if you're at McMurdo Station in Scott Base, it's actually very easy to get to because the
Yeah,
volcano is only 20 miles away from
yeah.
McMurdo Station. So in terms of access, it's relatively close. But getting to Sidley is a whole other expedition on its
That
own.
is a logistical nightmare. I keep saying it like that. So yeah, I knew about its existence, of course. I looked it many times. I looked it up on the map, and I'm like, wow, that's in the middle of nowhere. Just to give you a little bit of a feeling, it's you go to Punta Arenas, and then from Punta Arenas you fly into the continent, and then you are really already far away from everybody.
Yeah.
But there's still some logistics and everything. It's a big camp, but eventually you get green light, and then they tell you step in the flight, and you will fly 1,000 kilometers further from anybody. You land the plane over there, you build up a camp, and then you start climbing.
Wow.
There is you are the most remote, maybe the most remote climber, 100%, but maybe one of the most remote persons in the whole globe when you are
Yeah.
there.
And how many of you were there during that expedition? And
Um,
surely
in th-
it wasn't just
in
flying
total,
and
we were
tuning.
only 4.
Wow. Okay. All four of you
Yes.
climbing together?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you can't send yourself off on that kind of expedition by yourself. It's
No,
just
no. This expedition is only run one time a year, so it's very exclusive. It's also not cheap. Let's
mhm.
tell it there directly. That has
That's
to do
why
with the logistical nightmare, of course. Um, but no, it's very unique, and yeah, you feel when you are there, you really feel that you are so remote. Eventually we had one time, because normally the plane, it comes in and it stays there.
I was about to ask, did you see this
Yes.
plane disappearing off in?
Yes. There was another medical emergency was happening
Oh,
somewhere, and the plane had to go. And we were there then only with 4 people. And as far as you can look, there's only ice and this, of course, this big volcano that you can see. But the thing is, in Antarctica, when you are there, your distance and height is just, it vanish
yeah.
because of the white. So when you're there, you think, it's close by. It's not that high.
There's no
But
perspective.
but eventually when you start, it starts to hit you. And you also have to think of temperatures that are dropping to -40 when you're there.
Yeah. See, what were those your conditions?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Mostly
Because
of the
you,
days, it was -30. But when we went to the summit, it was -40. And just to give you a bit of an example, it's not a difficult volcano to climb, but the elements are just very
yeah.
surprising. And it took us 5 attempts to get to the summit.
And you're climbing at almost at the peak of Antarctic summer. You were there just after, what was it? You said you were there just a month ago. So
Yeah, a month
January.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're there in late summer, and yet you're
Yes.
still hitting conditions of -30, -40.
Yes. Yeah. The season was coming to a closure when we were there, and
Wow.
yeah, we were very lucky. But what happened was that normally our 5-day expedition, it turned into 15 days. And you have
So
to imagine, when you are there, you have a sector of 10 meters where you can walk. Everything out of that region is considered dangerous because of crevasses or any other potential dangers.
yeah, so because you're doing for all these other peaks that you've done beforehand, you're reaching, say, glaciated regions of the volcano, and then you're transitioning to ice climbing and crevasses. But for this, you're dealing with that the entire way, from the beginning of camp all the way to the summit.
Yes. It's a continuous, just like a puzzle. And the thing is that because every year only one expedition comes there, the puzzle is every time is different.
Yeah. So you're all guinea pigs every time.
So there is no route that is established. You start every day, every time you start new. Every year when the plane goes, it's a different location.
Wow. Okay. So even the starting point varies every year.
Yeah.
So what I'm gathering from this is that shouldn't be the first one you do.
Yeah, well, maybe, but what I like about this last expedition is that all the things come together. So it's the exposure of ojos that you feel alone. Same in Atacama, you can experience
Mhm.
that a bit. In Elbrus, it can be very cold. Also, not that cold as over there, but it's a good teacher. Um, and yeah, the steepness of Pico de Orizaba and in Damavand. So yeah, everything just aligns, and it's like the ultimate challenge to complete it.
Each of them has their individual challenge. Okay, in
Yes.
that I think you kind of summarized it there, but for each one, either give me one or two words that maybe describe what the challenge was of each of
Well,
these
for
peaks.
mostly, let's start with Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro is mostly for a lot of people. It's the introduction to
Yeah.
long day hikes. Well, a summit day. The first time you do a summit day, that you're waking up in the night and you have to go up and climb a volcano in the middle of the night. If we look at Elbrus, yeah, it's what I mentioned. It's the cold. The cold
Mhm.
just can get you there. And yeah, it was for me. It was my first time I started to use the specialized mountain climbing gear. So like
Mm.
crampons and an ice axe and ropes and stuff like that.
Because you don't
Um,
need any of that for Kilimanjaro, do you? It's
no, you don't need to. No, you have a certain route. You can go up.
yeah, yeah.
And the thing is that if we then go and look at other volcanoes, one of them is, for an example, is Gilue. If you go to Gilue, it's at Papua New Guinea. It's also so remote, and almost nobody
Yeah.
climbs over there. And it's like you're stepping into this time machine, because all these
Mm.
people over there, they are living a different life, and they still believe in, well, certain religions and stuff like that. And it's very unique. And you have to go in Gilwe. You're not climbing in snow or stuff like that. No,
Yeah.
you're climbing in a tropical jungle.
Even to the peak.
Almost to the peak.
Almost.
There's some highlands where you can go, but the first 2 days is just jungle, and it's an unforgiving jungle that doesn't want you there.
So yeah, in comparison to some of the others, you're surrounded by wildlife. So the contrast between some of these peaks couldn't be more different.
Yeah, and well, what I learned, what I for myself thing that I learned when I was in Asia in Damavand was that I needed to use the correct equipment. I made a
Mm,
lot of mistakes in my mountaineering career, 100%, and one of them that really struck me was the one in Damavand because I went up and it was not a very clear day, and what happened was I removed my sunglasses, which is never do that. So I
okay,
removed my sunglasses, and what happened was because of the snow and the ice, still there was a lot of UV. It hit my eyes, and the day or the night when I came back, I got snowblind.
really?
Yeah, and I could not open my eyes for around, let's say, 26 hours.
Wow. And that was on your way. So what, you were on your way down, or you
Yeah,
managed
yeah, I
to,
was already back at there's
once you
this big,
finished the
yeah, it's
descent?
the big
Okay.
refuge. I was there, and then in the night I was just laying in my bed and trying to open my eyes and didn't do it. And I
Wow.
knew directly, well, I
Exactly
knew
what you'd
very
done.
fast what it was. And well, that was my lesson that I learned from there. And then if we go to Ojos, yeah, one of the key things of Ojos is the altitude.
Yeah.
The altitude, it's almost 1.5 kilometers higher or than all the others. So it's just it hits you really hard, and it takes a lot of time to acclimatize.
That final. So what? How many days is that? Where do you get to before you do the summits?
It depends. Depends.
Locals.
So you do some normally in mountaineering, do a lot of acclimatization hikes,
Mhm.
trying to get your body ready. And I think 2 days prior before we went to the summit, we were supposed to go to 6,000 to another volcano, and we went there. And I remember because Ojos has a special story for me. Is that the day before we went to the summit, I looked at two other people that were coming down of the volcano, and there was another climber with me, and they said, "These people are already climbing for 20 hours." And I said my words. I should have never said this. I said, "Can you imagine that you are climbing 20 hours?
And
That this should not take 20 hours." Correct. Mine took 24.
wow. Okay.
Yes, but it had different reasons. I I had a lot of things in my mountaineering, travels, and with this one was that, unfortunately, because of big miscommunication, I was left behind at 6,700 meters in minus 28 in a snowstorm, trying to find my way back. So it was not my best climb, and it was on the way down. Um,
Okay.
and it was already pitch black. So we started the climb in dark. We see sunrise. We see it going up, and then eventually, when I was at the summit, it started already go down. And then some things happened, and miscommunication, and I was alone eventually.
Wow. Okay. That's mildly terrifying,
Yes, it is.
to
It
say the
is.
least.
Yeah, that really messed a little bit with me. I made it safe. I didn't had any cold injuries or anything, but it was a little bit a dent in my ego in the way that when I'm going back alone into the mountains again, you never want to experience that again.
Yeah, as you say, every single experience you have, you learn from it, and then you make as much contingency and preparation and plans. But sometimes things happen. At the end of the day, this is an extreme
Yeah,
environment. We are at its whim.
yeah, you have to respect the nature, and it can overthrow you if it wants to.
VolcaKnowledge is proud to be sponsored by John Wainwright & Co. through Wainwright Aggregates, and Brunton, Wyoming, making the world's most reliable compasses, professional transits, and navigational tools. Since founding in 1891, John Wainwright & Co. are one of Southwest England's largest independent quarrying companies. As well as extracting and processing premium basalt from their quarry in Somerset, they produce construction materials and operate a successful contracting division. Let's hear from some of their employees.
My name's Darren Curl and I'm the sales office manager at John Wainwright's. One of the great benefits of working for a company like John Wainwright is that it's open to change. And for me, this is one of the biggest differences compared to our competitors, is that we're willing to explore new ways of manufacturing, new ways of processing, and allow us to stay ahead of our competitors. Customer experience has always been an important part of my previous roles, and what I really enjoy about working in this industry is it allows me to really look at how we can enhance our customer experience for all of our customers. Within my role as the sales office manager, it does give me the ability to travel to our other sites, which allows me to engage with other members of staff and talk about how we can do things differently and how we can implement change. So for anybody who is looking to get into this industry, there's a variety of roles here, whether it's finance, sales, or whether you want to drive a dumper or operate an asphalt plant. There's lots of variety, and there's also lots of opportunities for career progression.
Well, quite an experience going through all of those. So I think we kind of skipped over it. What was what led you to actually realizing, oh, this Volcanic Seven Summits challenge is actually a thing that I should do?
Wait, I'm gonna grab one book. I have it over here. So in this room, I have a lot of a lot of posters, a lot of certificates and everything. But I also have a book here that inspired me to do this.
Okay.
So one day I was just walking around in a library in my city, and yes, I was climbing volcanoes around the world, and then I saw this book. And let me just grab it 1 second. So this is this book. Well, it says pretty obvious
Seven
what it
Volcanic
is.
Summits.
Yes. So I saw this and was like, "What is this?" And I started. I bought it directly, and it's from it's a former photographer from Adrian Rohrfelder, and he had the opportunity to go on this very nice trip to go to all 7 of these volcanoes in a very rapid period. He did, and he made beautiful pictures and stories about it. However, though, I started to read it, and this was around that I already booked my trip to go towards Iran. And I was reading it, and I found out like, oh, Kilimanjaro was part of it. I did Elbrus the year before, and then I was going to go to Damavand, and that was the 3rd one.
Yeah.
And I started to question myself: is this maybe?
Oh, I could do this.
Maybe I can do this. Maybe this is something that I've been looking for in my mountaineering career. And then I started to go more deeper. And then I found out that there were, when this was written, this one, only 24 individuals did it. So I knew it was very exclusive. And then I started to dig more deeper. And I found out there's nobody from the Netherlands who ever did this. And that propelled me to just try, see where it gets me. And after a couple of years, yes, that happened. And I got to 6. And then, well, I had to go to the southern continent. And after a indirect journey of 10 years, it took me to complete this challenge.
So are you taking that from your first initial Kilimanjaro summit? 10 years, wow.
Yeah.
But as you say, you took a few years to actually prepare for the final one.
Well, first of all, when there was a bit of a unlucky thing, because I found this book in 2019.
Uh-oh.
And in 2019, then I was like, I'm going to go for it. We all know what happened in 2020. Yep. So it was a big time out. So I had 3 of the summits, and then I had to wait almost 2 years to go to do the other ones. And then I did 3 of them in 4 months, pretty rapidly. And then the last one was the big challenge. And of course, there's only one season that you can go. So automatically you will skip 1 year forward.
Yeah. So the thing that strikes me with these volcanoes, I'd say probably apart from Kilimanjaro, is they are volcanoes that aren't relatively well known. They're not active, as in, they don't have active lava lakes. They're not erupting, or at least in recent history. So they're all dormant, from what I understand. So there's
I think there's only one story about Ojos. that
Yeah.
somebody said in the 1950s that they say that they saw some kind of small eruption,
Yeah.
but
But even that one is so remote to get to. It's such an
correct.
expedition just to get to that volcano. It's not one that's actually. I'm not sure of the state of monitoring actually of Ojos, but because it's so far away, it's not considered a major threat.
No, it's in the middle of the Atacama. There's
Yeah.
just high altitude volcanoes. Most of the big high altitude volcanoes are in that region.
Yeah.
But there's not many people.
Yeah, so so they're ones that people don't really know about. So what I will do is I'll provide a lot more information for people to go and have a look, and I'll put the list in the description. So I'd encourage everybody to have a look at these volcanoes. They're fascinating. I'd say out of all of them, one that's always fascinated me, mainly just because it's probably one of the more challenging regions to get to geopolitically, is Damavand in Iran.
Yeah, it is, and of course, also in the current state of the world.
Yeah.
When I did, and now we can also talk about Russia. Also, it's also, of course,
Yeah.
a
Challenging to
geopolitical
get there.
issue. So yeah, I did both of them before, well, some other lenses were put on these countries. But it is correct. Yes, you will always get questions, especially for Iran. People are like, why are you going to Iran? And I have to tell you this, when I was there, I met the most happy people that I ever met.
Yeah.
And my perspective, and that is also about mountaineering, your perspective just changes.
Yeah.
They tell
Because-
you the world is like this, and these people are like this, and then you go there and you find out these people are just like you.
Yeah.
And it brings you back to this world that you are here, and it also gives you some gratitude that what you have over here compared to other regions in the world. But yeah, you are correct. Iran is always it always makes some eyebrows raise
Yeah.
if you go there.
But it's I think what what a lot of people don't maybe appreciate or understand is geographically and geologically, this is a stunning part of the world.
It is.
Like the geology and the geomorphology and the structure of Iran and the mountains around there is just incredible. And I'm saying that having never seen it with my own eyes.
Yeah, I got lucky that I could also climb in the Alborz Mountains, so in the northern part of Iran, before I went to Damavand. But Damavand itself is in this beautiful region where you have this conical volcano. It just comes out, and I went in the end of the winter season, so it looked like this, yeah, perfectly with. It almost looked like almost totally glaciated, which wasn't. But because of the snow, it looked like it was just a fairy tale that you were there.
Amazing. Really, really incredible. So we've kind of touched on a lot of things, mental challenges about doing these kinds of things. What's something that you've taken away from doing this as a specific challenge in terms of maybe your own mindset or new perspectives?
100%. Well, I was already known to certain mindset because of the armed forces, of course. I knew perseverance and everything, but my perseverance has been going up to another level because, yeah, you have to have a certain mental capability to keep yourself pushing to go towards these high peaks. That is one of the things that I learned from my own body and from my own mind, that I can do way more than prior that I could do. However, though, what I also learned is that you need to understand when you have to turn around. You have to understand when it's over. It happened to me. It happened to me. And the first time I went to Pico de Orizaba, I was working in Mexico, and I had the great idea that I can go from sea level, and just in one weekend, I'm gonna go up. It was my only weekend that I had. I went up, well, halfway. I had to turn around because my body could not handle the altitude. So yes, I learned that in my journeys. And but what I mentioned already prior is, yeah, I saw the world with a different lens.
Every single one of these places, apart from maybe Sidley, there are still people attached to the journey getting there. You are interacting with local communities, you're going through different cultures, different languages.
Yes.
So every single one, I would say, apart from Sidley, but maybe even Sidley as well, is a cultural experience in itself.
You hear the stories about, let's say, the mythology in let's say, for an example, in Mexico. This volcano is linked with a lot of cultures, a lot of stories. The same as Damavand. There are
Mhm.
there are these elder people who are there who can tell you these kind of stories, and they have been taught by their grandfathers and grandfathers, and it still lives over there.
Because what I can't remember what the last documented eruption of Damavand is. Is there one even known? It's a
I
dormant
think it
volcano.
is known, but I don't know which year it is. But
I've
you are correct, Samuel,
yeah.
because most of them are not, they didn't even erupt in the last 100 years.
Yeah, so it's historical stories. It's oral narratives just
Yes, yes.
passing down, and a lot of these are held up in native and indigenous cultures as well.
Yeah, so yeah, for an example, one of the famous stories is of course in Mexico, is with the Aztecs and Quetzalcoatl. It's
Mm.
when he went up there and yeah, he decided that he will turn into a human form, and he left the
Okay.
continent.
You didn't have that kind of ascension whilst you were there, of course.
No. I didn't had. I did have another connection, but I could come to that later. I have a special connection with that volcano, and no, but I like that some of these volcanoes, they are rooted into the cultures, and
Yeah.
they are there to stay.
And it's not just the peaks, it's the case with many volcanoes all over the world. So I don't think we actually hit the number to date. How many volcanoes, not just the peaks, how many volcanoes have you summited?
I summited around 50 volcanoes around
Mhm.
the world. Most of them, they are above 4,000, and let's say more than the half of them, like 30 of them, are above 5,000 meters.
And so you mentioned Erebus. Are there any other key players on that tick list?
Yeah, there's a lot. For me, Corpuna in Peru, it's like
Mhm.
6,400 meters. This big volcano just near this volcanic field where in Peru, they have like, I think they have like 5 or 6 volcanoes who almost reach 6,000 meters over there.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that
so
is
what?
one. And
Go on, continue.
the other one that I always wanted to go to is the island group of Vanuatu.
Yes, okay. Because yeah, that in when you're looking at say the Oceania, Australasia, it's that kind of part of the world. There aren't that many that you can go to. Apart from, no, actually, no. Let me. If I'm thinking about it, depending if you're including Indonesia as part of that, maybe
Yeah,
not.
well, of course,
Yeah, of
that is,
course.
in mountaineering, is always the debate.
Yeah,
There, for a lot of them, also in this one, in the original Seven Summits, there's some continents there's no debate,
yeah,
and Oceania is always the one that jumps out, because some people say it's Australasia, it's something different. That part is a part, but if you're gonna look, yes, there are a lot of volcanoes in that region.
yeah.
The only thing is, there are not many high altitude ones.
Yes, okay.
All
Because
the high
I'm
altitude ones are mostly in South America.
yeah.
You can
So
find them.
you have to go to Papua New Guinea just to get those few higher peaks.
Yes, that is the highest one, and of course we have Hawaii. We
Yeah,
have. There's also some 4,000
but
volcano over
but
there.
you can drive to the summits of Mauna Kea.
Yeah, I haven't been there, but yeah,
See,
I heard that story.
I
Uh,
have done that, so I can say I've done one summit to 4,300, but it was in a 4x4. So
hey,
maybe it was.
if we're gonna look at with a different lens, then it's the biggest mountain in the world.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so I did. Yeah, we drove to the summit of Mauna Kea, but then Mauna Loa, which is just I think about 100 meters shorter.
Mm.
You can either summit the whole thing, or you can drive up to a basically the Mauna Loa Weather Observatory, and then you can hike the last 400 meters to the summit. But even then, you get to the top, and it's still only a couple of degrees Celsius, so
Mm.
it's still a very pleasant walk from the observatory up to the summit. So really nothing in comparison, but I would love to do some of these other peaks.
Yeah, the one that I can personally, one of my favorite It's well, we go back to a country in Ecuador, and you have the famous volcano Chimborazo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the highest part of a person can stand, or closest to the sun a person can stand.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite facts
Yeah,
that it's not Everest, that it's not Mauna Kea, that if you're counting the furthest point from the Earth's center,
yes,
closest point to the sun, it's actually Chimborazo in Ecuador. Yeah.
correct.
If you didn't know that, go and look it up and have a look at base because of the way the Earth bulges at its center around the equator. And in Ecuador, these volcanoes are actually a lot further away than, say, Everest would be from the Earth's center. So yeah, it's a great fact. I love it.
Yeah, and I like the fact that well, I think it was in the 1800s or somewhere at the end, that almost all of the world thought that Chimborazo was the highest peak in the world.
Yeah,
And then it lost its title because all the adventurers, they went to the Himalayas.
and they figured it out.
Yep. But he reclaimed it again because now he's still
Yes.
a little bit the highest peak
There we go. Now that
of
we've
the world.
reclaimed that. So another quick point that I want to get touch on is obviously your background is not in science and geology, volcanology as such. Have you learned stuff along the way in terms of these environments and just taking in the
Yeah, I
environment
needed
and
to.
geology
I
around?
needed to. I needed to understand what am I climbing exactly? Because
Yes.
yeah, it is unique. It is not a mountain. It are volcanoes. So yeah, I did some reading. I did some online courses, just very basic volcanology stuff.
Mhm.
But it gave me a different level of perspective, that I could understand these volcanoes better. Yes,
Yeah.
I thought I needed to do that.
But I think it's quite a nice message actually that you don't necessarily have to have, the physical science background and the degrees or the
Mm.
qualifications as such or the academic tick for you to go out there and basically to explore and experience these kinds of places.
No, I think on a very basic level, if you go to, let's say, a volcanology course 101, even then, you can already start to derive certain features.
Yeah.
You'd be like, hey, that is that. I can see a dike. I can see this. I can see that. And yeah, that really helped me to understand more these, well, formations that I saw when I was walking up, which also makes it very exciting.
Yeah. So what you're saying is I shouldn't have spent 8 years studying volcanoes at university. I should have just been climbing them instead, right?
No, I think you are doing with a different lens. Of
There we
course,
go.
it's a scientific thing, and for me, it's more a pleasure thing that I do in my free time.
I'm trying to do a bit more of what you're doing now.
Wow.
I've spent the years doing the research, but maybe I need to start climbing some more, and then I can actually call myself a proper outdoor volcanologist.
Yeah, I think what is very important is don't go too fast, to high
Yeah,
altitudes. Just build it up. I've seen it happen with people who think they can directly go to 6,000 meters. And sometimes it goes well, but there are a lot of stories where people get really sick, and then they get this, well, nightmare version of altitude, and they never want to go back anymore into the
yeah.
mountains.
Yeah. So, well, there we go. There's the best advice we could give to anybody looking at this challenge going, yeah, okay, it's not the 7 highest peaks. I could do 7 volcanoes. Take your time.
Yeah, I think it is possible for a lot of people if you have a motivation and discipline. First of all, you have to keep, well, you have to go to the gym, you have to keep training, and you have to figure out if, well, altitude is good for you. And the only way, yeah, normally to find out is to go out there
Yeah. And
and
just
take it slow. Exactly.
take it slow. Very good. Well, I think I could keep asking you about all the volcanoes you've climbed, and we could do this all over again. But is there a particular memory that sticks in your mind? Either if it's a big moment, a small moment, just something that you always come back to.
Well, a lot of things in my life are connected with volcanoes. First of all, when I went to the Navy and I found, well, my passion, then I started this challenge. But also love. Also, love is part of that. My wife is from Mexico, And my special moment is that, when on my second attempt, when I went to Pico de Orizaba, I took her ring that I was going to give to her. I took the ring to the highest peak of her country, which was also the mythological place where Quetzalcoatl said, I will be the link between the earth and the heaven. And that is where I brought the ring and, indirectly asked her to marry me.
Wow. I've had some impressive stories to wrap up these episodes. The fact that you just came in straight and said, we're going to talk about love. I think that might be up there with some of the best some of the best ones.
I kept it for the end.
Yeah, because I thought, shall I touch on this memory now because we were there talking about it? But I'm glad you saved that to the very end.
Yes.
Cool. Well, Ricardo, thank you so much for joining. I'd encourage everybody to basically, what's the ideal place for people to go and look back at your challenge and the things that you've done?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram page. The logo is right here on the hat, and it is Seven Volcanic Summits. My journey is not over. I'm planning to do another volcanic challenge that is going to take me in a lot of different regions around the world. And hopefully I can do it somewhere starting in the beginning of this summer. I want to start with this new challenge, and it's going to be an exciting one.
Okay, well, I'd encourage everybody to follow along with that journey, and I also look forward to seeing what that's going to be. So thank you so much, Ricardo, for joining us on VolcaKnowledge.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for tuning in for this episode of VolcaKnowledge. Remember, you can catch all of our previous episodes either through our website, www.volcaknowledge.com, or you can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you stream your favourite podcasts. You can also watch all of our episodes on our YouTube channel, VolcaKnowledge, and don't forget to sign up to our social media channels at VolcaKnowledge through Instagram and Blue Sky. Please leave us any feedback and comments and topics maybe you want to see on a future episode. Thank you for joining, and see you next time.